You got it. Hello, welcome everybody to another episode of Arthur's Roundtable. Super grateful for all the people that are paying attention and sharing this. We've had a lot of fun doing these. So thank you very much for do that. The Family Office Insights community is very active. And so thank you to everybody there. And today, Paul and I have done a little podcast at the early part of the doing these podcasts related to his work and his book that was released back then. And just so everybody knows, we're friends. We've traveled the world together. We've known each other for quite a long period of time. So I really appreciate him coming on. He's got some not only good information to share about his history and journey, but some new things coming out that you'll hear here today. So again, thank you for everybody joining us. And Paul, great to see you as usual.
Arthur,
Yeah,
always good to see you. I absolutely love you and Mary. What an incredible hearts you guys have, and
thank
just
you.
positive energy. And honestly, we miss you. We were talking just the other day. The hardest part about spending so much time in South America and Colombia is two things. Not seeing my grandkids enough, and Arthur and Mary still haven't come to see us. So we're
Yeah,
gonna
right.
have to
We'll fix
tie you
that.
up.
Yeah, we'll fix that for sure. Well, we miss you guys too and love you as you know. So let's do this for the group if it's okay. Let's start at the beginning. Some people know where this all started with the business and then moving on to some of the work that you've done for children and so forth. But let's do a little background on that and then we'll go from there if that's all right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, back in my early 20s, I started a mental health company. It was a company that helped people overcome anxiety, depression, PTSD, addictions, childhood trauma. We had some workbooks and some audio programs that we were marketing. I was selling a coaching program that we would line up a personal coach and help people move forward. We had 50,000 people a month calling in off of an infomercial to get a workbook and audio programs to get help with these things. And I recognized at that point that the world is full of people who struggle, and they struggle silently. And it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor or white or black or what religion, doesn't matter. All people carry some heavy burdens, and it either comes out in anger issues or addiction issues or anxiety, depression. And a lot of it stems from some unhealed wounds of our childhood. And it may not be verbal, physical, sexual abuse. It might be an emotionally absent father, whatever it was we needed at what age. And so helping people heal from that was a big part of my life. I sold that company when I was 29 years old. I sold it for $20 million. Now, a lot of that was restricted stock in a pink sheet company, but I was rich on paper, and that made me feel good about myself. And
Right.
I had some cash and enough to start investing. I'm the co-founder with John Pennington, and I co-founded a company called Bridge Loan Capital. It was a hard money lending company. Really, what happened is I started investing my money in real estate and realized if I didn't hire guys smarter than me, I was going to lose all my money in real estate. So put together a team. John and I built Bridge Loan Capital up to about 100 million in assets under management, and then we expanded our team into something that grew exponentially. We merged it with a company called Bridge Property Management. We started a fund that invested in multifamily and senior housing. And I built that up to almost $20 billion while I was still there at AUM. I'm still an owner, still a founder, but I retired in 2017. Lots of smart people running the game. Now it's well over 50 billion. They ended up going public
Yeah,
after
they
I
did go public.
the RDG on this New York Stock Exchange is what they ended up becoming. So it was a beautiful win, but my heart was in philanthropy. I have a unique past where I led more than 70 undercover child rescue missions in 15 countries. So I put some of the money into creating an awareness campaign. In fact, a film called The Sound of Freedom came out a few years ago. I'm the primary investor, executive producer of that film, and hundreds of millions of children are safer now because of the awareness that was created in that film. And today we run healing retreats. I recognized after all the years of fighting that darkness of child trafficking and everything else, I recognized that we were never going to fix the problem. pulling children out of hell. We needed to pull the hell out of humanity. We needed to go back to my roots of what happened 35 years ago with a company that helped people with anxiety, depression, PTSD, addictions, childhood trauma. And we can go into this deeper later in the conversation. But long story short, about 10 years ago, I connected with some doctors and some scientists that were working on some new protocol and the proper use, and I emphasize the proper use of psychedelics when it comes to helping people overcome anxiety, depression, PTSD, addictions, childhood trauma, etc. And so since that time have now hosted and facilitated almost 90 guided meditation, breath work, plant medicine facilitated experiences to help people release what no longer serves them and step into the highest and best version of themselves. So that's a kind of A to Z there. And we can talk about whatever your audience wants to hear, everything from a business success. I have a new book. My original one was The Sound of Freedom. That's all over
Move
Amazon. And
just a little bit this way. There we go. That's
yeah,
good.
so
Okay.
the Sound of Freedom book on Amazon. And then
Let's see the other one.
the new one that I just finished is going to the publisher is called Your Infinite Wealth, The Golden Age of Conscious Capitalism.
Nice.
And people think, well, are they related? In every way, they're related, because I have seen that the toxicity in our world that leads to everything from domestic abuse to wars to even child trafficking, a lot of it comes from the energy that we hold in our daily life, how we treat each other in our family and our community and even our business. If we're seeing business and finance as a dog eat dog and a scarcity mindset and a take from others for me to win, that mindset in and of itself bleeds over into how we treat others and our addictions, etc. So the conscious capitalism part is creating millions, if not billions of dollars from a true win-win-win, a true value for value, a conscious way of creating wealth that's in alignment with the laws of the universe, divine providence, and how to use charity and good works to create that value for all.
Yeah, well, you and I have both seen it and experienced it, that you don't have to be a dick to be successful in business. You can actually approach it with a loving kindness mindset, right? I mean, it doesn't
Hmm.
have to be the other way around. Some
It
people
does.
see all the movies or see people that presumably are relentless, but I think that's, as you described it, just adds toxicity to the whole process, and it's completely unnecessary. And for the record, everybody, aside from doing psychedelics when I was a kid in high school, Paul has introduced us to a process, and one that was guided properly, and it was a life-changing experience for us. So aside from, we knew each other way before that, but I have to thank you for that, because it's changed our lives in a and it wasn't instantaneous, but over a period of time, and the whole experience has been amazing. And of course, that we experienced together with you and Hana and Vanessa and Kira and so forth was enriching. It's been an enriching process. So for the
Well,
record,
and we've gotten way better at it since then. That was, you and I have known each other for a long time. That was way back in the beginning with some facilitators that were training us. Today, our retreats are anywhere from a 3-day, 4-night retreat all the way up to an entire week long, what we call a rebirth retreat. And we have there's 180 different strands of psilocybin that can be worked with, and knowing the right ones at the right time and to create the right experience is incredibly powerful. Now, just so you guys, the audience understands, I'm not a fan whatsoever of uh, of us decriminalizing it and then the kids deciding to go get high on mushrooms with their friends at a rave party. It's not only a bad idea, it could be dangerous. What happens is the brain goes into a state of neuroplasticity where you're very impressionable, and a trained facilitator can take that neuroplasticity and go in and help change the perceptions and the trauma from what happened when you were 7, etc. But in the wrong environment, now you've got a rave party, you've got a rap music, you've got orgy going on, somebody yelling at their wife, and that environment can be damaging to our subconscious mind. I like to think of it like this. If you imagine there's this gold bar is our subconscious. It literally runs 95% of our life. And when we're kids, 0 to 9 years old, it's in a state of liquefaction. It's in a flow state. It's in what they call neuroplasticity, very impressionable. Now, that's good because you can learn 3 or 4 languages at the same time. But it's bad if your uncle does something horrific to you, or even if something simple, your dad says, "Oh, you look ugly in blue," that can leave an impression. And then when that gold bar hardens, now it takes 21 days to chisel at the edge of it to try to make changes to that subconscious mind. But if you can turn it back into a liquid state, and that's really what happens. The psilocybin creates a neuroplasticity, allowing your subconscious mind to be very pliable, and you can have some beautiful aha type moments. And a trained facilitator can help reprogram some things that are super heavy. It's a beautiful experience, and we run those here at the sanctuary in South America now. I tell people Medellin, Colombia used to be the most dangerous place on the planet in the 80s when Pablo Escobar was here.
Right.
But he was taken out in the 90s. The cartel all went up to Mexico, and now all that's left here is rose farms and coffee farms and chocolate farms. So we ended up buying a chocolate farm. We have 200 chocolate trees, cacao trees on the property, and
Nice.
40 avocado trees, a river coming through the middle, and cabins all around it. And this is where we hold our retreats. And they're
I was like, that would
beautiful.
be healing alone.
Exactly. Just come and sit by the river and enjoy the cacao is healing all by itself for sure.
So I think it's important, and thanks for saying it, that the having facilitators that are trained in doing this is critical. You can't just sort of wing it. And we've seen the consequences of people winging, and it's not good. Also, can we talk a little bit about there's been lots of work historically without psychedelics from smart people like Alice Miller, The Drama of the Gifted Child, how people have her analogy was these occlusions get chopped or laid on this diamond, which is the kid as a youth, which is unoccluded. And then over time, the carbon deposits occlude that diamond. And by the time you're 40, you got to go to therapy to chip it all off, right? What have you discovered about even trauma that has been generations prior that maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's been suggested that some of that can be embedded in your cell structure, and you carry trauma from prior generations. Have you worked with any of
Absolutely.
that?
Yeah, we work with it a lot. We have ancestral trauma and generational trauma, and for those who believe in it, I there's significant evidence of potential past life trauma as well that is literally carried forward with us, that are within our DNA. There's the memory of what happened when your parents, your grandparents, etc. I Perfect example. You know, my I used to be LDS. I was raised in Utah, and my ancestors were literally hunted. It was legal to kill a Mormon back in the 1800s in certain
The
states. It was
story
totally
is
legal.
wild.
Yeah, and so
People don't know this, but the reason why Mormons were known to have multiple wives is because the men were being
killed
hunted.
off.
They were being killed off.
They were. It was so crazy, and the government wasn't protecting them. In my DNA, there was things there that distrusted government and wanted to hoard things, and make sure I had enough rice and beans to last through every winter the rest of my life, and looking over my shoulder a lot with this energy of distrust for humanity, and that wasn't taught to me by my parents. It was literally stuck in my DNA. There's a lot of that we work with in everything from family constellations to past life regression to all of these things that we work with in these retreats. That we can Some of it is facilitated by the plant medicine experiences. For me, we've done more than 90 retreats, and 12 of them have been ayahuasca retreats. My first ayahuasca was was deep trauma healing from generations. It was super deep. And I was in this state where I could see it and feel it. I could feel the pain that ancestors went through, not just the last few hundred years, but even back beyond there. My lineage, I was able to trace one of my lines all the way back to William Wallace, and I could feel generational trauma of wars and fighting and challenges that literally would carry today. So yes, it's a beautiful opportunity to be able to go into this state of past life regression and be able to remove that stuff so that it's not things that we're holding on to today.
When do you find, having done this so far as much as you have, and this isn't meant to be derogatory towards seekers,
Hmm.
but there's a lot of people who are, seeking the magic, and they're they're really not understanding that it's really that you have to do the work. Like, they want come to an ashram and all of a sudden everything's fine, right?
Yeah,
So
such a good question.
what's catalyzes people to take it seriously? Well, first of all, I sort of jumped ahead here, but first of all, to decide that it's something that makes sense, because you have to be fertile and ready to do this sort of thing. We've talked
Absolutely.
about that. But besides that, when somebody wants to take it seriously and do the work, because you just can't sit there and wait for it to happen.
Nothing's going to fix you. Not even, they on whether it's breath work or meditation or prayer, whether it's ketamine or wachuma or psychedelic or psilocybin or ayahuasca or even things like iboga on the far end. I mean, all of these different tools are there to create a state of neuroplasticity that you can then start working with. But unless the number one thing you have to start with is a desire. You've got to want to change. You've got to want to release the things that aren't, because we tell people when they come to our retreats, listen, if you have to come back in another 3 or 6 months, we didn't do our job, right? You didn't do your job and actually doing the work, because the the medicine, the psychedelic experience is not going to fix anything by itself. What it's going to do is create a window of opportunity, and in this window, you and the facilitator together have this opportunity to be able to reframe reframe how I'm talking to myself because of my what happened with my ex, reframe how I feel about men because of what happened when I was 7, reframe how my addictions because I don't love myself. Whatever it is, it creates this beautiful window of opportunity. But you could just sit there and look at the leaves and not do anything about it. And really, it doesn't create significant change. And it starts with having a clear intention. We start with people a few weeks before they come now, and we say, I get on a Zoom call with them and say, okay, listen, most people spend more time planning their next vacation than they do
Totally.
planning their life, right?
Totally. Yeah,
So
they
we're
just
going to
don't want to
spend more
show up,
time.
right? They
So
just want to
let's get
show up and say,
clear.
"Okay, I'm here."
Fix me. Yeah, exactly. So if you don't know where you're going, you're going to get nowhere with amazing accuracy.
Yeah, right.
And it comes, people will set these goals financially, but they'll never set goals when it comes to a healthier relationship with their spouse or being more present with their kids or looking in the mirror and really loving deep down what they see. These are all things that are really lie at the foundation of real true happiness, not another zero in your bank account. And so getting super clear as to two things, not just what you want to embrace, but first of all, everything that you need to release. What is it that I need to release in order to step into that highest and best version of me? Do I need to release how I talk to myself on a daily basis? Do I need to release my negative self-talk, my worry, my what if thinking, my negative expectations, the perceptions I have of myself or other people? Do I need to release my how quick I am to anger? Do I need to release that addiction I have to alcohol or pornography or whatever it is? There are different things that we all individually need to say, okay, this is holding me back from having that true intimate relationship with my wife. This is holding me back from really being able to be the top performer at my occupation. Whatever it is, identify everything that needs to be released, and then everything that you're going to make way for in terms of what you want to embrace. What does that highest and best version of me look like? And once you've identified that, then there are plenty of different tools that you can use to help get there. But planning on it, being super clear with your intention up front is incredibly important.
And words are important too, like just the words, I'm going to release what no longer serves me. That mindset may heretofore not been anything people thought about. Like, what do you mean by that? Serve me. This is about me, right?
It is so many times, there are people that literally gain value in their mind from being a victim and telling everybody how horrible
Totally.
their life is. And that may have served you at one time. Maybe when you were a kid, being a victim got attention from your mother.
Passion, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever it was, but it doesn't serve you now. It's holding you into that same mindset. And maybe there was a time where pornography served you, and that's okay. I don't judge that, right? But if it's getting in the way of a healthy intimate relationship with your spouse now, then it no longer serves you, right? Maybe there was a time where alcohol served you because life was so difficult you needed to numb yourself from it, but it doesn't serve you today because you've moved beyond that and you can release that. So that it's so important to recognize that the past version of you wasn't broken. The past version of you just didn't have the tools that you have today. The past version of you didn't know what you didn't know. And so that's why you did those things. That's why you behave that way. And so you can not live in a state of shame and guilt and remorse, because that's tying you to that past version of you. Instead, say, you know what? I'm going to release that. I'm going to release that past version of me. I'm going to step into who I really am meant to be, my divine mission, my highest and best self. What does that look like?
It's actually a really good way to put it because it's kind of like the Buddhist thing, right? Is the Buddhists had, I think, a good way of looking at things. And when something was bothering with you would put it out in front of you and examine it and then let it go, right? You didn't get it. It was, practice of non-attachment,
Non-attached.
right? Which is, you know, harder to do than talk about. And the other thing that I found, I'm wondering if you're finding the same thing. It's kind of like life and business. It's a series of adjustments, right? So you go into this with the plan, committed to some sort of expectation to accomplish something, an intention, as you call it. And what I found is that it absolutely pays to do that. But once I'm there, something else came up. And then all of a sudden I solved the problem I didn't even have, knew I had, right? That
Exactly.
happens, doesn't it?
It really does, and I tell people, listen, that 2 weeks before, I want you to journal and write down and get super clear on that best version of you and what you want to release. But once you're actually here, once we're going into that breathwork experience, once we're going into the meditation experience, or once we're going into the plant medicine experience, now it's time to release. It's time to release and trust. You can, if you're religious, you can trust God. If you're not, you can trust love, trust yourself, whatever it is. Walk into it with a place of just openness and trust. And in doing so, the experience will guide you into that best version. Because sometimes we're so close to the problem, we don't see what we're doing wrong. We literally are where we can't see the forest through the trees. We're so close. And so then it opens up your neural pathways, and now you're able to feel and see and recognize things that you didn't before. For me, one of my first experiences was the most beautiful, horrific experience of my life. Horrific because what happened to me, the facilitator was in this deep meditation. We had used some of the plant medicine I was in. The beautiful music was there, but then there was some meditation music that was there that took me into this place where I call it pure empathy. I felt in every cell of my body, I felt the pain that my children felt when I cheated on their mom, as if I was them. It was so painful. It was so deep and hard. But then I also felt the joy of the children that we had helped to rescue and return with their parents. And it was so beautiful. And then I felt the ripple effect of my actions, the man who came to my party and slept with a cheerleader and broke up his marriage, and now a year later his daughter gets abused by the new boyfriend, or the son gets addicted to drugs because there wasn't a father in the home. And the ripple effect of the fact that I was in that space and throwing that party with them, it was so profound and it was so difficult, but it was incredibly healing for me because I was able to see that's a previous version of you, Paul, and you can leave it all behind. You can release it all. It doesn't serve you anymore, and you can step into this new path that does align with the highest version of yourself.
It's really interesting because you can, if you're at a place where you recognize intellectually that you can't change the past, you can only change the future. Like intellectually, you can, that makes like logical sense. But again, it's easy to say and not easy to do. And it's, if you have the help of these modalities, it just gives you permission in some level and also the mechanism to cause that to happen. Is that make sense?
Yeah. Well, and beyond that, so many times depression comes from regret of the past and anxiety comes from worrying about the future. The thing that I have found so powerful for me, and whether this is in meditation or in breath work or in the plant medicine experience, all three of them helps me to get completely into the present, into the now, into the space where literally all of eternity exists in this present moment. And instead of worrying about the past or even projecting about the future, by being fully, completely present in my communication with you right now, where nothing else exists outside of you and I right here in this conversation. Same thing, being super present with my wife, super present when I'm praying, when I'm meditating, super present when I'm creating a meditation for other people, whatever it is. If I can be 100% present, that's that is all of eternity. That's all the future, all the past. That none of them exist outside of this present moment. And being able to get present in a meditation, get present in releasing all of that extra, puts everything into perspective and brings in a degree of happiness that can't happen when we're living in the past or living in the future.
And that is a muscle you can build, right?
Absolutely. I have found that through daily meditation, and let me touch on this for the Christians. I have a very strong Christian background, and for years I thought that prayer and meditation were opposite ends of the spectrum. I came to realize that no, they're completing each other. For a lot of people, especially for me, was very one-sided. It was I talk and never listen. It was praise, 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 sorry, 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 fix, fix, fix,
Right.
right?
Help, help, help.
And help, help, yeah, exactly, and hang up the phone. Can you imagine developing a healthy relationship? If I was telling Vanessa, or you called up Mary and just that's all you did is, hey, Mary, wow, you're so beautiful, you're amazing, and hey, sorry, I left a big mess in the house when I left, and help, can you fix this and this and this, and boom, you hang up the phone and never receive anything coming back. That's not healthy. And so many times prayer works that way. And so what I teach is teaching people how to get into that space of prayer, however that is for them, but then drop into a listening mode of being able to turn off your conscious mind, move into the place of the heart, and through breath and through presence, be able to receive. I have another book, that the one that's coming after this one, that I've been working on for a while, called Are You Listening, with my hand on my heart.
Nice.
Not are you listening here with my ear, but are you listening on heart? Because all of us have the ability to tune in and receive and listen. We just get too bogged down with our daily life and all of the crap that's going in on our conscious mind that we never take time to tune in. And it's not just tuning into God. It's literally tuning into each other as well. It's the energy of everything. It's listening to what is not said in the body language in your communication with somebody. Listening to that energetic connection you have with your kids, that wow, I need to give Jordan a call right now because there's something. That's what listening is about. is tuning into that energy that is everywhere with a spirit of compassion and presence.
It really is amazing once you learn and build the muscle of listening attentively. It makes a huge difference in your relationships because you tend to habitually do perfunctory things that just because it's a familiar situation, you don't take it seriously, like relationships with your wife or whatever. And
Hmm.
what what I found, and I don't blame people for this because it's a natural outgrowth of being a good salesman, is if you're a good listener, then you'll be a good salesman. But
Hmm.
oftentimes people stumble early on in their salesmanship careers and they're sitting on the edge of their seat waiting for the other person to shut up so they can say the next thing on their mind. Like they're not even thinking about what the other person's saying, right?
Fact, it's funny. I years ago when I had my company that helped people overcome anxiety, depression, et cetera, I had a call center. We had about 200 employees, and we were selling a coaching program for the people who had ordered this audio tape and whatever. And my team members, when I had them on the phone, I said, "Listen, if you pitch coaching within the first 5 minutes of your call, you're fired.
We're fired, right?
Preferably, it's 10 minutes into the call. You need to listen and ask questions and listen to really why they bought the original program, what challenges they're having. And in that period of being a good listener, then if it feels right and is appropriate, offer coaching as a solution based on what you learned about them, not the reason why you called." And in doing so, they were way more effective, and it was truly a compassionate sale based on really where they were coming from, not based on, "Oh, I'm calling you to try to get you to buy this coaching program."
Yeah. No,
So
it's really, really sort of sales 101, but people fail at it
all the time.
regularly. What is so I read a book a friend of mine wrote called Solve for Happy, and he was a engineer at Google, uh, and really high up in the company, and he had a very bad experience because his son died at like 21 years old from a bad surgery. But anyway, this book he was in the middle of writing during that time and finally published it. And one of the things that he concluded in the book to help people was that your mind is not you, you're the observer of your mind. So if you look at it that way, and all of a sudden you don't have to do what your head tells you to do. You can just look at it and say, "Okay, that doesn't make sense. I'm moving on." Right?
Exactly.
Does that make sense to you?
Exactly. Yeah, we teach that a lot as well. And how when we're teaching meditation, when thoughts come, instead of being the thought, be the observer and see it as a river, and that thought coming and going. And and even things like emotion. Don't say I am angry. No, say I'm experiencing the emotion of anger, and disassociate from that. Instead of internalizing that anger, you can see it as a third party and saying, "Okay, well, that's interesting. That's interesting. I'm wondering why feeling triggered right now. What is it about my wife's actions that is giving me this feeling of being triggered? Let's look at it as a casual observer, and then from there I don't get brought into this trigger energy. I can say, wow, that's interesting. I wonder where that's coming from. let's
Yeah.
let's look at this."
Yeah.
And in doing
Yes.
so, flow completely around getting wrapped up into the anger.
So let's talk a little bit about the book. When's it coming out? The new one?
We're going to my goal is to have it out by May. I'm speaking at a couple big events in Texas and Los Angeles in May. And I want to have physical copies available then. I've sent it out to a few people that have read through it, and we fine-tuned some things in it. I'm super excited about it. This book is, I believe it's kind of I'm calling it the roadmap of business in the new age, in the age of peace. Most religions believe that we're going to go through a time of turmoil and then 1,000 years of peace. They kind of got that right, but God's not just going to come back and wave His hand and we're all going to be nice to each other. I
Right.
believe we're going to see that in our lifetime. I believe that we're in this place of elevation of global consciousness, this awakening that people are tired of the toxic energy that has created so much division and hatred in our world today. There's opportunity for infinite wealth for all of us. And a case in point, I talk about this in the book, how pretty much everybody it doesn't even matter if they live in a one-bedroom apartment. They live like kings, better than kings of 1,000 years ago. If you've got carpet in your house and your
Running
apartment, if
water,
you got a
toilet,
refrigerator, yeah,
electricity, the whole thing.
it's
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy.
exactly. And the reason behind it is that the creativity of the human mind that is compounding the value in the world around us. And I use an example that I learned from a friend of mine, Paul Piltzer, that about 10 men on an island. And these 10 men, every day they go fishing for their family. And they come back and they all day long fishing. They barely have enough fish, but they survive and it's consistent. Well, then the human mind comes into place, and the creativity of two of the women on the island come up with this idea of a net, and they sew this net out of some of the reeds and they give it to their husband, and they go out, and now these two men with this net from their wives, they're able to catch enough fish in a morning to feed the entire island. Now, the problem becomes 80% unemployment and a dysfunctional system. They would vote in a government that would tax those two men 80% of their fish while everybody else sat around. A well
Distribution.
functioning, exactly, a well functioning society, one of those men would get better at building boats, one would get better at building huts, one would get better at educating the children, one would get better at growing herbs and new whatever it is. Lifestyle as a whole increases for the entire island because of that creativity and the fact that the system was working in a way that was creating a true win-win-win. And the challenge begins if we see the world from a lens of scarcity. If we see the world in a dog eat dog type of energy, where the only way that I can make $10 million or $100 million is if $100 million is taken from the pockets of those who need it or those other people that might could use it. And so it's this mindset of a scarcity that is creating so many of the challenges we have today. The truth is, we live in a world of a true abundance. There's enough raw
Absolutely.
resources where every single person could have all the food we could ever eat, all the cars we could ever drive, all the clothes we could ever wear. The problem is that in most economics books, the definition that we were taught of economics is the division of scarce resources, which is a fallacy. There's not scarce resources. There's enough for everybody. It's just a matter of changing our relationship with money and being in line with the divine expansion of the universe. The universe as a whole is literally expanding with new suns and new stars and new earths and new everything faster than we can count, faster than we can imagine. Everything is in this creative expansion state. Yes, there are black holes that take things and pull them in, but the ever expanding version of the universe is one where we can incorporate that in our lives, and we can see it already with the fact that we all live as kings today. And as we continue in that progress, there is availability for infinite wealth for everyone and the ability to create a true value for value, a win-win-win just by changing our mindset about money.
Yeah. I really like that. In fact, um, it took me till about the age of 30 to decide to live with abundance, even though I didn't have it, but it was just a mindset. And it changes everything when you look at it that way. I refuse to live in a spirit of lack because lack
Yeah,
begets lack, right? I mean,
yeah.
we know that. And it's really interesting, what we were talking a little bit about earlier is that call it what you want, the divine, God, whatever it does it for you, right? Meaning what
Hmm.
faith you have. But I've noticed it regularly produces good results and gets better and better all the time. And just a footnote that you know this, but I've been doing transcendental meditation since I was 17, and I didn't really know it was a secret weapon until I was 25, right?
Hmm.
And so, that form of, being present has helped me immensely in many, many ways. But if you listen to the universe and build that muscle, your intuition, let's just say that's what it is, gets better,
Hmm.
better and better.
Stronger and
And then
stronger.
every time you listen to it, it further validates that shit, I should have listened to it again, right? Isn't it wild? Right?
Yes. In fact, I talk about in my Are You Listening book, I talk about in leading the undercover child rescue missions. Many times I wasn't following logic and protocol. We were being led and tuning in. I just and I'll throw this out there. I remember one of my missions. It was in Haiti. Now, Port-au-Prince, Haiti is the most dangerous city on the planet right now. And it's been dangerous for a long time. I did 12 undercover child rescue missions in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and the surrounding areas. And and I remember one where I had a new team. These guys were, some big Navy SEAL Green Beret guys, and they built and tattoos, and it was about 2 in the morning. We hadn't connected with any traffickers, and I said, guys, can I take lead? Are you good with that? And they're like, yeah, yeah. They say you're really good at this. I want to see what you do. I said, okay, you need to follow exactly what I say. I said, first things first, I need you to understand that I believe in God. Most people believe in a supreme being, whether they call it the universe or a heavenly father, or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Divinity,
There's
divinity.
there's
Yeah.
there's a higher power that is very interested in us doing good. I said, in that higher power cares more about these children than you and I ever could and knows exactly where they are. So if you're okay with it, or even if you're not, I'm going to start out by tuning in and asking for some help. So here we are, downtown Port-au-Prince, the darkest, most voodoo infested place on the Western Hemisphere. And we take up our hats and do a quick prayer meditation space. And then I said, guys, now I need you to understand how I see fear and faith. I said, most people think that faith is going to church and asking God to fix things in their life that they don't believe are going to be fixed. That's not faith. That's blind hope. I said, faith is it's a universal law. It's one of the most, next to unconditional love, it's the most powerful law in the universe. And it's simply this, it's the unwavering conviction that what I want to have happen. The problem is that most people have a hard time with unwavering conviction about anything. Should I marry this woman? Should I move to this new job?
Always
Whatever it
hedging.
is,
Right. Always
yeah,
hedging.
they're exactly. It's because they don't know if it's in line with what their God wants. For me, I told these guys, I don't care if you think that God is a man or a woman or a tree or a universe or a cloud. There's not a virtuous creator of the universe anywhere that's okay with an 8-year-old being raped, period. So it was easy for me to have unwavering conviction, unwavering faith that we're going to find them. And so just tuning into that was what allowed us to take down the largest child trafficking ring in the Caribbean, which took down 4 corrupt federal judges, all from what happened that very night and tuning in and connecting with the right people. And so it's a beautiful way that you can receive guidance in everything you do in your life. I talk about this in the book as well. I'll touch on it's a beautiful story. In my early 20s, I met a man by the name of Jerry Prime. Now, Jerry, he had never graduated from elementary school. He couldn't even read or write, barely on a third grade level, if that. Yet he was tested at the University of Utah as the highest IQ they had ever tested at the time, one of the highest in the world. He was the inventor of 300 different inventions, a whole bunch of life-saving medical devices. The original software that Siri, that voice recognition came from, the original software that IBM used to create that in the beginning, he created it, and he couldn't read or write. And I went to lunch with him, and we sat down, and he said, Paul, he said, you could have an IQ over 200 if you wanted. And I said, no, I'm really not that smart. I worked really hard for my grades. I didn't even get a scholarship. And I said, and I don't think you can change your IQ. That's kind of something you're just kind of stuck with, right? And he goes, no, he says, you can change it. He said, tell me this. He said, do you think that I'm the inventor of those medical devices? I said, well, you have the patents, right? He goes, yeah, I do. I said, you're not the inventor? He goes, no. I said, you stole them? He says, well, kind of. He said, how long has the universe been around? I said, well, millions of years. He said, billions upon billions of years. He said, those medical devices were invented billions of years ago. I was a better listener than you. And he put his hand on his heart. I said,
Isn't it?
what? He said that the difference between me and you is that I'm a better listener. I said, "You better listener with my ear?" He goes, "No, a better listener." And he put his hand on his heart. Said he said so many musical works of art were written note perfect the first time because the composers were able to tune in to the infinite knowledge that's available to all of us. He said you can call it whatever you want when you start tuning into that intuition, when you start quieting your mind in a transcendental meditation or a deep personal meditation, whatever it is, you can get to this place where you can receive far beyond what's available to your conscious and even your subconscious mind, tapping into this super conscious energy that is available to all of us.
And so when you heard that at your age, did you believe it? Did you
I
did you
here's what I
do anything
did.
with it? Right?
Yes, I a big part of building bridge to billions came from that. I what I did is I started exercising it like a muscle, right? The more I exercised it, the better it was. And so I got to the point where if something came into my heart that said, boom, you need to call Dick Marriott, I don't care if it's 7 a.m. If it hit me, I would call him, I would text him, whatever else, because I don't know. I don't know. Even if I didn't get an answer, maybe that was exactly the right time that he needed to see a call from.
Well, I have to tell you, I do that all the time. And I catch myself ignoring it sometimes, and it's a big mistake. Like I get up in the middle of the night because I have a thought and I just do it. Like I also try to be mindful of my time. So if I think of something and I don't think it's going to be productive right now, then I don't do it. And so I hedge a little bit, but for the most part, every time when something comes to my mind, and I'm the most disorganized person, I let everybody else take care of the organization stuff. Because if I did the organization stuff, I wouldn't have time for anything else. So
I
anyway,
agree.
I'm just validating your like when something comes to I don't question. I just say, okay, someone just said in my head to contact this person and connect that dot for some reason. I might not even know what it is, right?
Exactly.
Isn't that wild?
Exactly. It's
Yeah,
so beautiful. It's so
yeah,
beautiful, and it works. It works. Here's the thing though. Goes right back to what we were talking earlier about having an intention coming into a retreat. If you don't know where you're going, then the universe has no idea where to direct you.
yeah.
You have to decide what it is you want first to receive that divine connection from God, from the universe, from the energy of other people. But once you decide, I want to be a centimillionaire. That's what I want. I want $1 billion in my bank, or I want a healthy relationship. Whatever it is, if you can really put your mind and your heart to it and put that out there and see it and focus on it, then is what will happen is that things will start conspiring in your favor. All of a sudden, boom, the right person that would come into play that was a 1 in a billion chance that you would meet that person at that time. It came in because you decided where you wanted to go. And then you tuned in and started listening to the direction that would help guide you to it.
And I'm 100% in agreement, not because of woo woo, right? Because I've seen it happen. Like it delivers every time without fail.
Yep.
It's crazy, right?
It's a secret. I literally in Your Infinite Wealth, the one that's coming out soon. Chapter 4 is on meditation. And it starts out with why would I have an entire chapter on meditation on a business and financial book? Well, it's because it's a secret weapon that so many people disregard as not part of their business practice. But if you could co-create with a power infinitely more knowledgeable and powerful than you, wouldn't that process be so much easier?
Yeah. And the Buddhists also had a good way of looking at these things. The Your Buddhist monk suggested that you meditate. They would smartly say, "Try it. If you don't like it, go back to the other way." Right? So they wouldn't like say
Exactly.
you have to commit. Just give it a try, see what happens.
Just give it a try. Exactly. I tell people, I said, if you got plenty of time in your day, then and you're super flexible, not a lot going on, I would suggest that you meditate at least a half an hour. Now, if you're gonna super busy with a whole bunch going on, then you should meditate for an hour.
Right.
because because you need that clear direction on everything that's happening. And so it's a super valuable tool to just turn off your conscious mind, get into that place of the heart, focus on your breath. And I have some meditations that are available on. There's a program called Insight Timer. There's some there. We have some that we posted on the Liberating Humanity YouTube page, etc. Some beautiful tools that people can use to. I've got some couples ones that we use at our couples retreats that are helping couples get super present with each other in a heart coherence and eye gazing and ICU type of meditations that are beautiful, powerful, and very effective at bringing couples together.
Yeah, I want to talk about Epstein for a minute, just because I think that you'll have, based on what you've done, have some interesting insights that aren't just sort of, network news crap. And the only thing I'll mention also is Mary's got some powerful skills, as you well know, in not only tuning into stuff, but it's helped me recognize, what was it, the human design component? Like, that's been
Hmm.
super helpful to us.
Yes.
And that I always ran through walls to get things done and connected dots, right? And so doing that helped me realize that my makeup is a manifest generator. Well, putting words to it was super helpful, because then when I
Hmm.
looked at it, it said, okay, this, and it was like somebody wrote me an editorial about me, right? So, so I think there's numerous ways to basically execute on your intentions and make it stick.
And we should also explore having her. We have people similar to her with those gifts that help with our retreats as follow-ups with people, et cetera. And the human design stuff is beautiful. So we've seen it many, many times and just helping people understand themselves in a way that they never did before. So,
Yeah,
but
I know
yeah,
you love that.
touch on Epstein.
Yeah, let's do it.
We
Yeah.
could go for a whole other hour on that, but we'll keep it high level here since we're almost at an hour. Uh, you know what frustrates me is that literally just a couple months ago, we had we had people in our administration that were saying, "Yeah, there's nothing here. There's literally nothing here." Oh, then they produced 3 million pages of nothing here. Now I am. Don't get me wrong. I have been a Trump supporter for ever since he was in office, around years ago. I was literally there on election night in 2016, together with the Trump family, but I was really disappointed at the whole phrase a few months ago. Oh, Epstein, we still talking about that guy? Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are, because we demand full transparency. And they thought that they redacted enough stuff where we wouldn't see through it. But we've got a lot of smart people that are digging through those 3 million pages, and they're finding stuff. They're finding a lot. And what's incredibly frustrating is how much redaction we had of the perpetrators, yet they literally published entire pages of all the victims that were there.
And
It should
presumably it
have
was
been
the
the
other
other way
way,
around.
gonna be the other way around, right?
Exactly. And so it's going to get deeper. More and more people are going to come out as people that were involved. It's darker than we even can imagine. When I say darker, this isn't, not to discredit the wrongful nature of being with a 17-year-old. That's wrong too. Absolutely. You should be, put in jail for that. We're talking little kids.
Yeah.
We're talking satanic rituals. We're talking some things that are just too dark to even talk about on any kind of social media channel. That as we continue to uncover how dark this is and how many high power figures were very involved in some of this stuff, it's going to appall us, and we're going to want to overturn who is involved in whatever institutions, whatever government positions. We as humanity cannot sit back and quietly accept that these things are going, that nobody has been arrested. We can't. There's been way too much here. And personally, I don't know that Jeffrey Epstein didn't commit suicide. for sure. But whether he was taken out by somebody else or whether he is still alive, there's significant evidence that he may be still alive. You can go down some of those rabbit holes as well and start doing some research on that. But we've seen this firsthand in second and third world countries. But the truth is, it is prevalent. It is prevalent in Hollywood. It is prevalent in big government, and it's both sides of the aisle. Sadly, when Sound of Freedom came out, there was a lot of people that thought that it was just a right-wing conspiracy type of a thing. We've got Jim Caviezel speaking at the QAnon stuff, and so all of the left said, well, it does. That's why it doesn't really happen. And we had guys that were part of our production team that truly believed that if you voted Democrat, you were probably a pedophile. And I told him, listen, we've arrested just as many people on both sides of the aisle. This is not a right or left issue.
Not
This
only
is
that,
something we should
extreme
all come
issues,
together on.
extreme positions on either side are usually to be dismissed,
Yep,
right? When you
exactly.
get attached to an ideology independent of what's going on and critical thinking, then it's probably, not worthy of even considering. So just like in your example, just because someone's a Democrat doesn't mean they're a pedophile or they're a bad person or they're complete libtards. It doesn't mean that, right? It's really like it's starting to happen. You got Prince Andrew, you've got Larry Summers, whether they'll actually end up going to jail. It's been really interesting to see Mike Benz. Have you heard listened to any of his stuff?
No, I haven't listened to Mike. I'll have to jump on.
Yeah, so he's thorough investigation, and I don't know how credible his opinions are, but they sound he's been lauded as a credible, independent resource to evaluate, and he's gone through all the pages to some extent, I believe. But what he was arguing is that yes, these horrific things went on, and that some of it, aside from the ones that we know were pedophilia, happened because people in other parts of the world where pedophilia is not an issue, he was doing business with, and so he was serving up the young girls to them, and that was sort of a pass, right? And he wasn't saying that it's good or bad. He was just saying that was part of what was happening there. And he was doing all the bad shit where it is wrong, right? It's
Hmm.
illegal and pedophilia. And, in my mind, no matter what part of the world you're in, it's wrong. But that, that's not, I can't make the rules in other parts of the world. But the other thing was that he was being protected simply because he was involved in a lot of nefarious financial stuff that
Yeah.
is often where the CIA is using people like him to pay off and launder money. And so he was being protected on some level that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's significant evidence that I truly believe he was an intelligent asset or is still. And that intelligent asset isn't necessarily just domestic. They're foreign connections with foreign governments. Now, just because I say that there's a strong chance that he was tied in with the Mossad doesn't make me anti-Semitic anyway. I've got wonderful friends that are Jewish, any more
Doesn't
than
make you
saying that he was
anti-Semitic at
involved.
all. It just
Exactly.
showing that he was an operative in another CIA type thing in Israel. That's all. That's all. It
Yeah,
doesn't mean anything about, doesn't have anything to do with it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But there's significant evidence of that as well. And here's the thing. I'll leave with this, that if you wanted, and this has been in the CIA's book of dirty tricks for decades, if you want complete control of a senator, of a congressman, of a federal judge, you want complete control forever, or even of a billionaire, right? You want control of them forever. You get them on film with a 12-year-old, and that's a level. Back in the day, they could get you in a homosexual type of a thing, and they could
And that
control you with
worked too.
that. Now,
Yeah.
yeah, but now that doesn't work. Now everybody's like, yeah, that's not a big deal. But doing that to a child, now that's the leverage that they need. And so sadly, when you work in the world of blackmail, which a lot of these agencies do, there's there's a certain level of blackmail you have to have on people to
Yeah.
have that level of control. And sadly, that's what was going on.
And you said this actually. I don't know whether it was a message to me or a post, but once you release the evidence that you have for the leverage of the blackmail, it becomes useless.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is why we will never see all of the evidence on the P. Diddy one. Which is why we'll never see all the evidence that they collected with Epstein. Because, if all of a sudden that's all out there and then we vote out, or all of the senators or congressmen that were involved, if those guys all of a sudden get taken and thrown in jail, now they have to corrupt a whole new group
New
in
group.
order to
Yeah.
control them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's crazy. Well, on some level, it's good that a lot of this has been released. And another way, it brings to light really, really dark shit that sometimes I wish I could not know.
but at the same time, the only thing required for evil to flourish is for good men to do nothing. And by not knowing, then we justify doing nothing. And so for me, I had no idea how bad child trafficking was until I saw it firsthand. And when I saw it literally face to face with traffickers selling children and face to face with the children themselves, it woke something up inside me that just said, I will dedicate my life to eradicating this evil from the face of the earth.
Yeah. And people can see the movie, and a lot of people on here, I'm sure, have saw it was really interesting when we saw the premiere in Miami with you. It took another year and a half for Hollywood to release the grips. Remember?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because they
Yeah.
were afraid.
They
Yeah.
were afraid. They didn't want people to be having these conversations openly because they knew it would eventually uncover their own darkness.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really sad. Well, Paul, this has been awesome as usual. So,
Well, Arthur, I absolutely love and respect you for the man that you are, for the audience you've created, for the family that you have, for beautiful relationship that you have, and for especially for our friendship. And I'm incredibly grateful for that. And so thank you for trusting me with this time with you and with your audience, and
of
super
course.
grateful.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And love you guys. Miss you. We're going to see you soon. And we're going to do this again when the book comes out. That's okay with you.
That would love that. Would love that. I will send you one of the first copies.
That'd be awesome.
I'll
Yeah.
sign it.
I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. Thanks for doing this, and thanks for being with us. Just hang on one second, Paul. Okay. Thank you, everybody.